more minutes, and then after 5 minutes, we'll start. I don't know if everybody's okay with that.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that's
sure.
5 minutes. So that's 2:05, and then we'll start either way. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. We're starting now. Hello, please, if you can hear me, you can just drop like an emoji in the chat box so I know that everyone can hear me. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Okay. Welcome, Felix. So I guess everyone can hear me, so we'll just go ahead. Once again, welcome everyone to the GWPL discussion series. This is the January edition, and we hope to have um, we hope to have something every month all the way down to December, but this is what we are starting with for the 2024, the January edition. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Uduak Ikere. I'm the project manager of Good Words Partners Limited, and I'll be your moderator for today. Okay, before we go into what we have for today, I'm just going to talk about like a brief background to the GWPL series, how it all started. So just a brief background to it. So now GWPL series is an initiative that was created like 4 years ago. That was during the COVID era. And it was actually born out of the need to create an engaging platform that brings together various thought leaders, experts, and enthusiasts from diverse fields to analyze and discuss various issues. Because in the world where the narratives of Africans are also spoken by others, we actually need to take this upon us to reclaim our story. So, and that was why we thought about it to create this initiative 4 years ago. Now, the goal of this discussion series is actually to dispel every form of stereotypes and have thought-provoking discussions that prompt us to think deeper and differently about our home, our people, and our collective future. So that's just a brief background of the discussion series. And I'll be moving on to introduction of the panelists. So for each of the panelists, I'll just read out their names and then I'll read out their names and read out their profile. So I'm going to do a run through for everybody so that when I call you to speak, we don't have to go through that anymore. So first on the list is Angela Umoru David. She's one of our panelists. Angela Umoru David. She's the current communication strategist, World Literacy Ambassador, that's the 2020 class, the Atlas Core Scholar of 2021, and current Atlas Core Fellow, serving with a racial equity focused nonprofit in Washington, D.C., in the United States of America. So the second panelist is in the person of Iretomiwa Akintude Johnson. Now, Iretomiwa Akintude Johnson is a public relations and communications expert and is currently a regional manager with West Africa. She's currently a regional manager, West Africa, and lead PR and communication advisor at ID Africa, a BHM company. Her career with BHM started in 2018 as an associate consultant before she was promoted to the position of public relations consultant in 2019. And in 2020, Iretomiwa became a lead public relations and communications advisor at ID Africa. She has a Bachelor of Law and an LLB from the Nigerian Law School. Once again, that is Iretomiwa Akintude Johnson. And the third panelist is Felix Nkudimana. I hope I pronounced that right, Nkudimana. So Felix is a distinguished professional in the realm of accounting. Felix is a distinguished professional in the realm of accounting with a great career that spans pivotal roles such as tax advisor, auditor, and financial business advisor at esteemed institutions, notably the Rwanda Revenue Authority and others. So he holds a prestigious MBA and is currently the CEO of Jali Group Limited that offers finance and accounting related services in Rwanda. Once again, that is the profile of Felix Nkudimana. So I'll move over to the fourth person, Flobert Taga. So Flubetaga is at the forefront of Afri-Genius technological advancements. He's the technical director, and there he spearheads development and optimization of the company's cutting-edge digital platform. He has a strong background in software engineering and a deep understanding of the unique challenges in the e-hailing industry. Flubert has overseen the evolution of a number of applications, such as Boza Ride, which is a ride hailing app. So the last person, but not the least, is Kulani Shilvani. And she's an accomplished business operation professional with a postgraduate qualification in management and labor law. She served as Chief Operations Officer in a medium-sized organization in Johannesburg for 4 years. And in 2017, she established Shiluva, a human resource and labor law consultancy that offers dynamic people management solutions. She was accredited as a mediator by the Conflict Dynamics in 2018. So that is it for all our panelists, their names and their profile. So before we move over to the main business of the day, I'm going to call out a bit of housekeeping rules. That is, each panelist will have 3 minutes to speak. And the question and answer session will actually happen after the panel session is done, after the panel discussion is over. And it will last for, that's the question and answer session will last for 10 minutes at most. Now, the questions will be dropped in the chat box and the first 5 questions will be picked so that we will be able to save time. So now, moving over to the business of the day, which is the panel discussion. So before we go into the panel discussion, like earlier informed the panelists, so everybody's going to give needs to have a brief intro on the topic that was given out, which is the Gen Z mindset, implications of the future of work. Each panelist is going to give their take on it for 3 minutes before we go into the question and answer session. Before we go into, yes, the question and answer session for the panelists properly, yes. So briefly, before we go into that, I just want to talk a little bit about the topic. Yeah, the topic, the Gen Z mindset, implications of the future of work. Like, what is it all about? Now, the Gen Zs, as we all know, are people that are born between the middle 90s and 2010. And this is a set of generation that has a very unique viewpoints on things. Their viewpoint on things is totally different from every other generation in comparison. So they're influenced by certain things like the digital age, they're influenced by technological progression, they're influenced by changing social dynamics. So they have a whole different viewpoint from or in comparison to other generations. Now, they are the future of work, and that's whether we like it or not. So now the topic today is to discuss. We are supposed to rub minds. We're going to brainstorm and talk about how it's going to be. How is Gen Z going to be the future? What's the implication of Gen Z being the future of work? Because give it, whether we like it or not, there are certain workplace norms that are going to be broken and reshaped in the organizations. So we are going to talk about this and we're going to discuss it. So this is a basic intro of what the topic is all about. But we have the panelists here to shed more light for us. And first on the list is we're going to call on Angela Moro David to give us her take, to give us a take on the topic, the Gen Z mindset implications of the future of work. Angela, over to you.
Thank you so much, Udwak. Thank you to GWPL as well. Thank you for having me. And I can't wait to hear from the other panelists on this session. First things first, looking at the topic, I know that I found it very interesting. And I also believe that it's a very timely conversation because a lot of tongues have been wagging about, oh, what the Gen Z mindset is like. Are they even ready for work or they're lazy and all of that? And as I sat with this topic and I thought it through, I remember that one of the first things that came to my mind was how there is such a huge negative connotation once we talk about this particular generation. And I'm like, can one generation can't just keep getting the flack like that over and over and over. Like every cohort, every demography, every generation that comes always has its own unique traits. Be that is they're just very unique to that particular generation. So if you look at the millennials, for example, for a lot of them growing up, they grew up, they were able to, I'm not sure if you're all familiar with this, but they were able to move from video technology like Betamax and then they moved to VHS before you, excuse me, before you had the CDs and then you had the DVDs. And for the older generation, like maybe the baby boomers and Generation Y. For those generations, it was incredible that there would be even such things as floppy disks and you'd be able to use flash drives to share information. But now we've moved to completely wireless um, sharing or file sharing right now. So these are different, some of the different traits that are unique to every generation. So first and foremost, I think we have to just do away with that negative connotation and that assumption that once you think of these people, then this is the stereotype that we attach to them. Another thing that really came to mind when I just again saw this topic was in trying to pivot our mindset from something negative to something positive. I think we need to actually start seeing this generation as disruptors, right? And if we say that we are talking about the future of work in Africa, which by the way, I don't think it's the future of work. I think that that phrase in itself, it is here, it is today, it is now. So if you're talking about what work looks like in this particular age, we need to be aware that it can't be business as usual anymore. And we need to accept the fact that this particular demography, they think of things differently, but they're also out to disrupt systems, to disrupt things. And sometimes disruption is not so bad. It just means as a whole, we're just changing, we're just again pivoting, and we're able to just move with the times. To wrap up my thoughts so that I don't hog the entire conversation, two other things I'll mention is like you've mentioned, Udwak, in your introduction about how they're all digital nomads and the fact that they literally were born into this social media age alone also means that it will definitely influence their perspectives and their cultural notions, so to speak. But one thing I think we also fail to remember when we talk about them in the workplace is that for a lot of them, when they came of age to join the workplace, let's say 21, most are around 21, 25, at least the ones that are in the workplace right now, they're around that age range. What happened during that time? Unprecedented levels of inflation hit the entire globe. Also, the pandemic hit. Lots of people literally entered the workspace or the work job market right at the height of um, the pandemic. So I think another thing is to take those things into consideration that these are global events that would have definitely influenced the way they also approach work. Because if they say they want to work from home, don't blame them. A lot of them came into work while people were working from home. So these are just some of the things I think we should consider. And I'll just give pass on the baton to my other panelists. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you very much, Angela, for your take. Okay, so the next person is Felix Fudimana. What's your take on the topic?
Yeah, thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much for having me and organizing such a wonderful conversation. I would just add one quick thing on my profile that in addition to running an accounting firm, in fact, our accounting firm is called Jari Partners. Then we have a financial institution called Jari Finance. And this specialized in empowering youth, creating jobs by availing revenue generating assets to them. Then, which actually even put me in a position to live with some of the Gen Z that we're talking about today. And I've been blessed to see both sides of a generation that is really relying on the internet, a generation that is relying that grown up playing video games, looking into the smartphones. One side of the story of the city boys and girls, and the other side of that is not enough talked about, of people who are grown in rural villages, and most of them, of course, we meet in cities, etc. The village migrants who came to city to seek for job, which we can help by availing to them like a motorcycle, and we create jobs that way. So these are the type of Gen Z that is not talked about enough these days. But when I look at it in general as the gig workers, people who learn the gig economy and learn the bread by working today. So these people, they are just in they are we have a lot of inclusion of the same industry of the another generation we're talking about today. But if you look at the history, as Angela was saying, it's quite not easy to compare the generation. I can imagine that here we have most of millennials, but comparing generations, it's quite hard, and there is no such a thing like a generalization of what can the whole generation do, or a common point that unites all of them. But they seem to be lucky. And we seem to be learning quickly. I see that the future is bright to them, and in Africa, there are a lot of opportunities that are untapped, and these guys are really quick learners. I'm warning my siblings, my friends, say these kids are really intelligent, and they have a lot of tools to learn from. They have a lot of tools to learn from, and therefore, and even when you see how the technologies they use every day made them even more curious to learn things, and therefore this comes matching with the modern economy that start to be running on things like fourth industrial generation, things like AI, things like blockchain. I've been following recently this World Economic Forum, where people were worried, saying how what are the future of the generation where the 40% where there's a risk of 40% of workforce that might lose their job for the profit of AI, or for the profit of the users of AI. But there has always been fears for each revolution in the workplace. And I'll say that there's no better timing for the whole world, but for Africa in particular, since we have youth people. Most of the population are so young, in average, compared to the rest of the world. And this combination we are not yet, at least yet, the best in technology, but who knows how things can take us. Who knows with the penetration of this smartphone, etc. I truly believe in the future of working of this Gen Z. And I don't doubt that Africa might be, of course, people who are going to be fast learners, are going to adapt to the new realities. What you're seeing today may change tomorrow. people who are going to be willing to learn quickly, they stand a good chance to take advantage of this. But my final word on that part of the generation that is not well known or well fluent with internet, etc. Most of them, they are doing jobs that are actually very hard to replace. We've seen people like us. You've heard that I have a background in accounting. People like lawyers, people like admin, being really scared for what AI can do for them. But we are not very near to see the replacement of people who can work remotely, people who can deliver food, people who can deliver necessary tasks in a way that is not replacing. You can feel that are quick to be replaced by this new technology. So this puts Africa and this generation at large in a very good position to be the real definition of future of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Felix. Okay. Okay, so quickly we'll move over to the next person to give us a take on the topic, and that's Iretomiwa Johnson.
Okay.
Iretomiwa, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I have to thank GWPL Africa for inviting me for this, especially for this topic. Like Angela mentioned, it was an interesting topic. I took a step back and I'm like, yeah, this is something I want to have a conversation about. And I also have to thank Felix and Angela as well. They gave a very beautiful introduction that I would just segue off of that and say that I want to flip things off and say, flip the script and say, I don't exactly believe in the construct of Gen Z, millennials, and all of that. I'm not a big, it's like stereotypes. Really, when you say Nigerian people are this way or Kenyan people are this way, it's all stereotypes for me, because if you think about it, it's a function. I think it's more of a function of the time and situation we are in history. Because if you think about it, it's the best time to be alive. Whether you're a leader of a country, whether you're an employer with 500 employees, 20 employees, you get to have feedback real time right now. Although in 20 years, 30 years ago, it wasn't that way. We have to also remember that, baby boomers, Gen Z, think about it. Everybody was once Gen Z. Think about really your 60-year-old grandpa, your 80-year-old grandpa. There was a time that they were Gen Z and they were really, flipping the bird off at the institution, refusing to do things like they wanted. They kept their afro, they're doing the afro parties. And, they were really insisting on not doing things like they should, really. So and like Angela had mentioned, it's also a function of when we were born. The older generations, millennials, think about it, pandemic, inflation, and all of these things. It came, it's going around. If you think about it, the Gen X, it came around the middle time in their lives. But for the Gen Z, it's right smack at the peak or the start of their productive years. Of course, they're going to react differently. They're going to behave differently. We just need to take a step back, because they're not really unique at all if you actually break things down. If you break all of these facets down, everything we're going to also discuss as well, you see that it's happening at a time that even for majority of us, whether you're Gen Z or whether you're Gen X, now everybody's on Twitter. You see your 60-year-old grandpa trying to understand Twitter one way or the other. You see the fresh grandpas trying to understand it. It gives, we all need to take a step back and say, look at Africa, it's 70%, youth population. It's an economy on its own. It gives possible opportunities. Not think about the stereotypes, what is possible, what is not possible. They need to take a step back. The youth need to take a step back and also appreciate how government works, why things are the way they are. While the older generation need to take a step back and understand and also appreciate all the things that are required to make things work, all things are required to make things run. And I always say it all boils down to communication, one way or the other. You need to communicate truthfully. Whether it's not like in the 1920s in the workplace now, where you go to the farm and somebody's pulling the wool over your eye and saying it's the older generation of people that are, are having the decision. Everybody's seeing what is happening. At the snap of a finger, you have a tweet that goes viral about horrible bosses and what is happening. That 20 years ago, that was not possible. So It's the same way a 40-year-old now will not take nonsense because he knows what is applicable. Now we know what's happening in America. We know what's happening in the UK. We understand everything that's happening at a glance. So there's some things that will no longer be obtainable. But like I said, it's about communicating and ensuring that we are communicating truthfully, that we understand each other on the side of the divide, communicate truthfully, honestly, and see how the opportunities that they are there for us to work together, really. So that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Iretomiwa, for that. Okay, so we're moving over to next person, that is Flubet Taga. What's your take?
Yeah, well, wow, very, very thoughtful from all the previous speakers, very insightful. I first want to start with a story. When I started work when I was 23 years old, this is about 23 years ago, I used to address my boss as Sir or Mr. John, Mr. Peter. Today, my subordinate walk into my office, high flew. I first looked back and thought that these guys are so disrespectful. What is wrong? And just a few days ago, my son had his phone taken away from him by myself because school is starting in South Africa. He came back very grumpy from the first day of school. And when I asked him what was wrong, he told me, do you know what I feel? Do you know how I feel? So this started to hint in my head when I started to pair it with this topic. And I really, first of all, before I engage in parallel to the story, want to thank the organizers because most of the time we inherit most of the things, especially technology. And by inheriting those things, it comes while we are immature to adapt to those things, and it leaves behind a lot of traces that will take us decade or century to solve as a social or economical or political dynamics that are left behind by traces of inherited situation like this thought. We're surely just going to inherit the result of other countries, other continents, talking about this topic and pushing this.
Hello.
Is it my connection that is bad?
All right. Okay. Are you back on, Mr. Flubet?
Inherit the decision. Am I fine?
Yeah.
Hello,
Okay.
am I audible?
A bit, but yeah, I think you're back on.
Okay, very sorry about that. This is what we call technology.
Yeah.
So coming back to the point, I was just appreciating the opportunity to express views on this platform where it could at some point lead to decision making that will affect potential protagonists or people from the discussion without us inheriting it from the discussion from other continents or imported thoughts. So I spoke earlier on in my story, introductory story, about two little points. People that are very expressive, they tell you what they feel. He tells me that he wants to be a TikToker. A TikToker. What is that? In my days, you had to be a doctor, medical doctor, or you had to be a teacher or a lawyer. That's it. Though that is all that is. Even musician was not accepted. In fact, I was supposed to be of this a dynamic world where people are trying to express life, and life expression shall not be imposed by or inherited. Life expression is just what life is. Now, most of the time we inherit our life expression from the previous generation. And I think that's where the disconnect is. My last word on this is that at the end of the day, we have to not look at it exactly talking to the point of both Angela and Ireto to say, we cannot say Generation Z is for the future, or we cannot say Generation Z like this or like that. It's just about, because it will always come. There will always be time after Generation Z. What is there? It's going to be something. I'm telling you. And Z is going to say, these people are like this, just like the previous to the previous point. But the most important thing is, how do we, as the people that are currently setting the platform, set a framework on which the principle of cohabitation is built? So what is that? And that comes a long way. To end, I will quote Ivan Meissner, the Chief Visionary Officer and founder of Business Network International, that rather prescribe the platinum rule that says, treat others not the way you would like to be treated, but the way they would like to be treated. I think that is my closing comment. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Miss Staff, for that. Okay, so to wrap up this introduction session, no other person than a HR consultant herself, in the person of Kulani Shiluvani. Kulani, it's your turn.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I think my approach to this particular topic was very practical because of the work that I do. I engage with people in the workplace day in, day out. I sometimes come home and I'm like, I don't want to human, because that's all I do every day is deal with other human beings. But I think my take on this particular topic is that this particular generation, and I want to agree with my other panelists, right, is that every generation brings something new into the workplace. When millennials came into the workplace, we brought coffee apparently and toasted avocado for whatever that is. And our parents, the boomers, brought something else. This particular generation and what we are seeing in the workplace is that they are disruptors, they are collaborators, which is a very good thing. And I like what Philbert said, is that they really don't care for sentiments. Hey, they're not going to call you ma'am, which I particularly enjoy because being called ma'am makes me feel old. They're not going to call you sir. They're going to approach you by your first name. Sometimes in the workplace, we will say auntie so-and-so, ma so-and-so, because we're trying to show respect. This generation is going to be like, hi, Kulani, how are you? Can I have a minute of your time? And if you even dare tell them you don't have a minute for their time, they're going to be like, excuse you, I've been trying to talk to you for the past couple of days, and I need you to give me my attention. And when I say disruptors, is that they're giving us ways to think about things differently. And this is where the innovation aspect of this particular generation comes in. They're not happy just to continue doing things the way they've been done. They're like, why are you doing this particular way? Isn't there a better way to do it? There's an intern in our office, and her biggest thing she always says to me every day, day in, day out, she says, I will not be defeated by something that cannot talk. And that's their approach to technology. I will not be defeated by something that cannot talk back to me. So they're very innovative in that particular way. And another thing that I think I love most about this generation is that they're actually collaborators, in the sense that, when millennials came into the workplace, we just wanted to come in, fit in, do what the bare minimum, get paid and leave.
Yeah.
Gen Z is like, I'm going to take the boomer who's the boss. I'm going to take the millennial who's, working up their way to management, and we're all going to work together, and everybody's going to talk to each other in a way that is innovative, that is going to allow us to, do the work that we need to do. But we're going to do it in an environment that is collaborative, that is respectful to everybody, but also in a way that is mindful of people's aspects, right? I think the one thing that I absolutely love again about this particular generation is that as much as they love what they do, they love their lives outside of work even more. And I think that is a very, very important thing that they're bringing into the workplace that I think our generation and the generation before has completely forgotten about. This work-life balance that we'd all spoken about before Gen Z came into the workplace was elusive. I'm seeing now the interns in my office be like, okay, listen, I've been here a couple of hours. I've done everything that I needed to do. I'm going to bounce because I've got other plans. I'm like, okay, I can't keep you here. You're done. Go. And what that does in the workplace is that it allows people to refresh, enjoy their lives, and come into the workplace and be even more innovative, even more impactful, which is very, very important. And I think that's the kind of work, it's the kind of people that is actually going to take work on the continent to another level that we've never thought about as well. So that's my pretty practical approach to this particular topic, because I mean, like I said, it's what I do day in, day out. So yeah, I hope everybody found that interesting to listen to. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Kalani. But you're not leaving anytime soon, because yes, you just made mention of something that I want to talk about, which is the work-life balance. I actually discussed this at work, and I guess that was the longest session we ever had. So work-life balance as regards to the Gen Z. So I'm just throwing this to you because you just made mention of that earlier. So are the Gen Z over prioritizing the need for work-life balance? Is it that they are not resilient enough in comparison to other, or it's just like you said, they want to have that life outside of work. They don't want to be all work, work, work. Please, I need to have my life outside of this. Are they over prioritizing the need for work-life balance, or was there actually a need for work-life balance before they brought it to our attention? Kind of.
I don't think they're over prioritizing us. I think work-life balance, I think they're actually teaching us how you can actually have a career, a meaningful and impactful career, as well as a life outside of that particular career as well, and how your life outside of work actually contributes to how effective you are in the workplace. So a lot of our clients will complain and say, oh, these Gen Z, they just here for a couple of hours, they do what they do and they leave. And my question to them is like, have they delivered on time? Have they delivered good quality work? And are you happy with the work? So what does it matter whether they're able to do that in 2 hours versus 8 hours? Because remember, we're no longer being remunerated for the hours that we spend in the workplace, right? A lot of that has changed. We're being remunerated for what we are able to deliver and the quality of work that we're able to deliver. So no, I love the fact that they're able to, teach us to also build a family as well, that there is a life outside of work. And especially, and I'm going to make a gross generalization here, especially for women, the way our career projection goes is that you get lamented. You want to chase a career, but you also want to have a family and have children. You miss the soccer, you're a bad mom. You don't work, you're also a bad mom. So this and I'm speaking about women because obviously I'm a woman. I'm not sure how it, for the other gender, but I think this life-work balance that they are forcing us to take into consideration is a very, very good thing, and it's having a positive impact in the workplace.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so for those of us just joining, as regards to the question and answer session where participants can ask their question, that will be done after we are done with the panelist discussion. So right now, what's ongoing is the panelist discussion. We're having an interactive session with each of the panelists. Okay, so I think this question will be directed to Mr. Felix, as he because of what he talked about, Jali financing the motorcycles and everything. I've read about what he's doing there at Jali Finance. So this question is for him, like African companies doing enough to create flexible work arrangements that will help align with Gen Z's preferences. No, their preference is quite different, is different basically. So are African companies doing enough to create these flexible work arrangements that we're talking about? Hello.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I would say that as the generations are different, so are the cultures. When you see the definitions of what people can do or a generation can do, based on what on the side of USA, for example, you are likely to not match with the beliefs of Africa, the culture of Africa. We as Africa, as a continent, we are coming from very far. We are coming from very far, and people in our situation don't expect too much. Don't expect too much. But again, as I said, it actually depends again on the generation and the culture etc. Now, when you look at Gen Z, it's like now the world is connected more than ever before. You will see people, even young people, your kids stand the chance to know who's Father Christmas more than someone, or equally or same time as someone who's in New York today, which chance we didn't have. Or it can be another big demand if at all we were in need of that. But the priorities and things as well, like even the work-life balance that my sister just talked about, all this can be defined differently. Because when you have less or nothing, your expectations are not expected to be big. But people are creating the world for themselves. We've seen people, even of our generation, who came from very humble families, and they built empires, land government, land religion, becoming some big image, something you can tell that it has not been learned from their fathers or mothers. The same thing can apply to this generation we're talking about, but in its own way. I'm not saying that Africans we should not be dreaming higher, expecting a lot of what the world can offer, but I would say that the generation and the we parents, people who their elder whom they are looking at, along with the technology that I just said, it's very open. Your kids today can learn a lot of Miss Retro, for example, more than what they're learning from your own house. But happy are people who have realistic expectation of their future, of their families, and I would say people who are lucky to be controlling their family, controlling their kids, controlling their young brother, to see if they can balance the highest ambition they should have as African, and the experience that we've had, not to expect too much of an unrealistic thing, but again, the chances are that this generation is going to become the stars of our continent, and bring the next generation to the future that we are going to all be proud of. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Felix, for that. Okay, so Angela, when I saw this question, I actually thought of you. So it was, I mean, I said you had to hear your take on this. Now, I saw this article somewhere on the New York Post, and it said that 1,300 managers, that out of 1,300 managers, 3 out of 4 agree that Gen Z is harder to work with than any other generations. So do you agree with that? Like Mr. Flaubert has said that they're very expressive. So What's your own take? Do you think they have been stereotyped like Retomio has said, or there's something you can say?
Um, I don't think it's unexpected that people would say that. Do I think it is true? Okay, as somebody who has worked in management before, it really does take you, like it hits you, like it takes you aback when you hear some of the things that they say. I remember that there was a time someone said to me that for an organization that does XY, like where I was working before, for an organization that does XYZ, you people do not go by what you claim you do. And I was like, oh wow, the audacity. But on the other hand, if you really think about it, I think the thing is just it's human nature for us to be very uncomfortable when we are confronted with the truths that we are not ready to hear, which a lot of times these people, sometimes I would say they could actually do it with a little more tact and sensitivity, but it doesn't change the fact that the heart of it is true. They're going to call you out because we're talking about people that are ethically and socially conscious. Like there's been a huge awakening with these people. So for them, it's if I'm working at a particular organization, that organization has to be mission focused. That organization has to reflect the values that it claims that it has. And if I do not see that happening, I am going to call it out. So for a lot of people who are at management level, there are people from coming, just as Kulani mentioned earlier, a lot of the millennials, when they came into the workspace, they were just, oh, let me just come in, fit into what's happening. I'll do my very best, just make sure that I'm able to buy a house the way my parents were able to buy houses or build houses, have enough to send my kids off to school. Don't touch the system, just leave it as it is. So it's what's the word now? It's jarring to be able to be in a management level. You've gone through this, and then you see this young person come from nowhere and have the audacity to question the way things are, to ask why is this like this. It's difficult as somebody who is in a management level to be able to accept that. So that is why you would have those kinds of reports. I am not saying that there isn't room for more tact and sensitivity, but we have to actually also understand, just as Iretomiwa mentioned, to be able to communicate, to be able to understand the generational differences and bridge those gaps, and to be able to collaborate, not just within the generation or the cohort you belong to, but to be able to do that across different divides, across different mindsets, in fact. So, for example, you have talks about diversity, inclusion, and even equity in the workspace right now. And a lot of times we may think that around racial lines, but we actually have to also think it around generational lines as well. To be able to create rooms where people can actually open up and not get punished for saying what they think at that particular time. So to that particular post, I think both sides, whether you're in management or you belong to this particular generation Z, I believe that the culture, the both parties have to be able to come together to understand, to have open mindsets, more or less, to be able to listen to what the other person has to say and to actually lead from a point of empathy. So a lot of times managers do not lead from a perspective of empathy. And a lot of times, even the Gen Z, they're like, oh, what, you guys don't know everything, down with the system, burn it all down. And no, it's about also being able to straddle wisdom and tact a lot of times. So yeah, it's a two-way street.
Okay, thank you, Angela, for that. Okay, yes, I picked up a word from what you said, Gen Z and the audacity. So now we can all agree that in addition to their audacity, they are very, very innovative. They have this strong entrepreneurship ability, skills. They are very creative. So Mr. Okay, I think they leave that for Iretomiwa. Okay, Iretomiwa, this question is for you. So now, in addition to all the things, all the adjectives we'll describe the Gen Zs as, is there any way organization can encourage and support Gen Z in being in pursuing their innovative solutions. Like, yes, no, these are the creatives. This generation, that's just how it is. They don't work the regular way the other generations work. So is there how can organizations encourage and support Gen Z in pursuing their innovative solutions, especially to address challenges that as regards Africa? Yeah.
Okay, so I would say like Angela mentioned, it's a two-way street. We understand who they are, and now we need now to be deliberate about creating policies and putting in place structures that will also help them work better. Because whether it's your company saying 10% of your work each month should be dedicate this to creating something you love and like. Because there's no way they're creating something they love and they like under your own time that you won't one way or the other profit out of it. Think about it. Or you're saying let there be, part of your KPI and deliverables is also ensuring that you're proactive, ensure you're looking, whether it's a plan or a document, something that shows your productivity, that hypens your productivity. It's very important. And these are things that we missed with the older generation because everybody's just ensured, these are your KPI, these are your deliverables. And I think this also ties into what Angela also mentioned the other time, because are you saying that they're more troublesome than the other generation? Think about it. Whatever they're grumbling about right now is not something that older generations grumbled about it. They just kept quiet instead of speaking out. Think about it. If you break it all down, think about it. And for instance, women at work. And I'm saying this because innovation also speaks to the policies that we're going to innovate for them, whether it's us for them or they for themselves. Because if you break it all down, the older generation, you have 6 months maternity leave, like, Kalani referenced the other time, women in the workplace, you have 6 months maternity leave, or you have 9 months maternity leave. And for a fact that that's not enough to, take care of your child, give birth, ensure everything is all done. And then you're ready to face the workplace with everything you've learned, everything you've gone through. This is the generation that's not going to ask questions. Why are you giving me 6 months? Why are you not giving me 9 months to do this for me to do another 1 year to do this? I'm going to be doing my deliverables. I will be able to deliver. And think about it, the things I've delivered in the past 2 years, does it not give me the essence, give me the leeway to say, and they're not innovating policies that will work for themselves and also give the opportunity where you can think about it now. And somebody said it the other day that women in the workplace, if you break it down, the older they get, the more productive they get because their children are already older. They have the ability to, the experiences they have gotten over the years. If they're mothers, for instance, there's a multitasking ability that they have. Yet, because of everything that the industry or the community or, workplace has innovated in one way or the other, it means that they're streamlined as they get older. This is the generation that's probably not going to happen to because they're running things, they're running their show. They're saying, okay, now I don't want to have children at this particular time. I want to have this. Or I don't even want to have kids at all. This is what I want to do with my life. It's now up to us to be proactive because we're already seeing some of these questions are going to start happening. Why do we wait for the Gen Z to start disrupting the place and annoying the place and then for us to ask questions to now ensure that we're able to set either institutions or structures or policies. And it's not just even in the workplace, it's the government. Think about it. We're going to have to deal with this quote unquote generation for the next 10, 20 years, whether they're being productive or creative in the workplace, whether they're being, as national citizens, whatever it is. How are we going to put structures in place as a country so that that between this age bracket and this age bracket, the next 10 years, they're going to be asking questions about why are we doing ballots this way? Why are we doing, why are we voting this way? Why can't we vote that other way? So we now need to be deliberate and now have this kind of conversations and find solutions and put them in place quickly because like Angela mentioned, they will annoy the hell out of us if we don't. So really, that's it from me.
All right, thank you, Retomia, for that. Okay, okay, so I think, yes, next question goes to Mr. Fluid. Yes, from what Retomiwa just said, The point is that they will keep asking questions, and I think the questions will become more when we don't put structures in place, we don't put policies in place. So now, is there this question is for you, Mr. Flores? Is there a way we can meet them? Let's say halfway, because yes, okay, the other day I was it watching TV? Is it? I've forgotten the country. It is not it can be Afghanistan. That they have maternity leave for that's for the women for 3 years. So imagine, and that 3 years is being paid for. So that's a policy for them, I think, as a country. So is there a way for that's for the Jays? Is there a way we can meet them halfway, or should we just succumb to their preferences? Okay, no, I start working in this company. I don't feel like coming every day. Can you just turn my whole job to remote? Let me just stay at home. Is there a way you can? Is there a way you, as a person, you think we can meet them halfway, or we can just succumb to their wants?
Yes, I think that is a capital question. That is a capital question, and I think most of us have touched in it. I've heard about mentioning productivity rather than number of hours at workplace. Yeah. That was a very important point. Now, we heard just now about I can deliver. And in fact, what you are considering as it is advantage for a category of workers, let's call them women, could rather be a serious asset at a later stage, like the multitasking skill when they are going through maternity period while trying to deliver something. They could actually learn those ability to handle more than a task at the same time and handle them optimally. And when they no longer have babies, that ability is still there that they can utilize within your organization. So I think the key thing here is for us to, number one, change what we call work. The word work seemed to be a problem because I should be able to say, no, man, I must doing this thing, not work. So, and if we change things to put it in that perspective, you're going to see that work is in fact not something that employer needs to meet anyone halfway. People want to work. People want to deliver. People want to be important. People want to, and in fact, something I read about this Gen Z is that they are purposeful. They want to work for something that means something. They just don't want to come and sit for 8 hours, expect paycheck because they were there. But they want to ask you, why are we doing this? And it's now trying to drive policies of the company. This is for entrepreneurs. And I hope this could reach policymakers at governments and, at the higher level to say, how do we incorporate how do we incorporate the not just delivering work and getting paycheck, but also to say, you are here to deliver a service, but in fact, it's for you are doing this. How do we include you in the objective of the company? How do I, as a director, make you participate in the goal of the company, of the vision of the company? Is there a way I can make you participate? Because at the end of the day, you need to take ownership of the goal of the company. You are not there as a foreign thing that I need to exploit to get to my goal. We are all part of what forms the organization to look forward to the goal. I think if we put things in that perspective, I don't need to check what Vuyo is doing today. I don't need to check what Nolutando is doing today. I really don't. I don't need to be at work. I know they are working because I know what my company means to them, not my company. In my company, I know what our organization meant to each one of us. I think if we start looking at things that way, we break the generational, cultural, ethnical, racial divide, and we coexist. At the end of the day, we need to ask ourselves, what is our role in the evolution? Because if you think about it carefully, we are in a certain phase in evolution where individual consciousness is taking a very big part of life. That's why they're telling you, no, man, I can deliver wherever I am. Just give me the work. Tell me what I need to do. What do we want to achieve? And why are we achieving that in the first place? So I think let's change the word work and let's give it a different meaning. And that will resolve so much issues. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fubit. Okay, thank you for that. All right. Once again, I'll go back to the HR consultant herself. And this question is as regards to career progression and obviously the Gen Z. Now, Gen Z and job loyalty, I'll take it as because of their nature. 1 month, 2 months, I'm not getting what I wanted. I'm leaving here. So say how my question now is how does the Gen Z mindset regarding job loyalty, how does it now change this employer-employee relationship? Are we supposed to be more accommodating, or okay, someone starts working and then they feel they're not getting what they probably signed up for? Does the companies also adjust for them, or how do you do it as a HR? How will you approach it?
Oh my God, I love that question. Gen Z, number one, does not care about titles. They couldn't be bothered they're not bothered about title. They're more worried about the work and the impactfulness of the work, right? And their ability to positively contribute to the greater good. And if they're not feeling that in the workplace, they could have been there 2 seconds. And if they feel like this is not it, they're out. And I think they're teaching us to run organizations that are actually meaningful, that also allow people to show up in their workplace as themselves. So I think what they're doing in this particular regard is that they're making us think more broadly about what it is that we're trying to achieve in the workplace in certain organizations, et cetera, et cetera. So, one of the things that we do at Shiluva is that we will recruit, employees for our clients. And one of the things they'll say, what are your terms? Like if somebody leaves me in 3 months, are you going to replace them for free? Because they're having to deal with somebody who's there for like a couple of months. And if they feel like this is not an environment that they're going to thrive in, they're going to unapologetically leave. And, other employees will be like, oh no, but this one is job hopping. They're not loyal. They're loyal to themselves. And for me, that is more important than being loyal to anybody else, because what tends to happen is that, gone are the days where my grandfather worked in an organization for 50 years. As a millennial, I would never do that. I mean, I'll give you 10 years at most. And that must be like when I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, like I worked for an organization all of 4 years and I decided to leave. So what does that tell you? So what does that tell you about the next generation, right? So I think we need to embody their loyalty to themselves, because when somebody's loyal to themselves, and if they can find a place where they can express that loyalty, you're getting the most out of them. So if there's one thing that I would definitely advise, entrepreneurs, organizational leaders, is that don't be worried about whether a person has been in an organization 20 years, 2 months, 2 seconds. But if you are able to create an environment for them to thrive, an environment where they can find loyalty in themselves, loyalty in the organization, then you're good to go. But then don't ask other HR people. They'll tell you that Kulani is a bit crazy. But that's just my personal view, is that if one is loyal to themselves, they can find loyalty in other things, and that creates a thriving environment for everybody involved.
Okay, thank you very much. That was very lovely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So for those of us just joining, we've started the panel discussions. Please, if you have any questions, can just drop it. You don't have to wait till when I said, okay, it's question time. You can just drop it in the chat box, and then I will read it out. Okay. Okay. So Angela, I want your take on this. So yes, I think if I stand corrected, when we started hearing about mental health and everything, I think most of it stemmed from Gen Z. Yes, as a generation, considering the millennials were very kind of quiet. So do you think that and plus the fact that social media, like the technological age and everything, and that generation just kind of a bit aligned together? Do you think the whole mental health thing is they're just overstretching it, or yes, there's actually a need for it, or then some people are just joining on as bandwagon, like okay, I just have to say it, everybody's saying it.
Hmm. Very valid question, actually. Um, I remember that when I started, like when I was working with the nonprofit JDI, and then we were doing work in mental health. Even though I was working in space, I remember I used to get so upset with the way it was thrown around so loosely, and it felt like a buzzword. But the fact that something is a buzzword doesn't make it invalid. I think that's something we also have to understand. And another thing is the overload of information alone that we are living in right now in this day and age is enough to make anybody extra sensitive because there's just so much hitting you at the same time. That being said, I think that HR policies really, again, it really just keeps coming back to Kulani. It just keeps coming back to
Yeah.
HR policies really should treat every issue or every case where somebody says, oh, I need space for my mental health as seriously as even the one that you think is, in quote, fake. Because the truth is, there are many triggers that different people might have at different points in time. So again, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. The fact that it seems like a buzzword right now doesn't take away from its validity. Another thing is talking about like taking it to like a little more a more practical approach. Talking about these policies is really, I think it doesn't have to be something so difficult that we have to pull out of thin air. It really isn't just about asking people what they need per time. It's really, I think it's really that simple. So how can we make the environment easier for you? How can we make the organizational culture more receptive? More, how can we make this place more flexible for you? How can we make sure that just as okay, now everybody has made such great points. Like I don't remember who said this, but somebody did mention here in this panel that it's very important that people have this feeling of this is bigger than myself. And we know that when you talk about mental health, one of the ways to promote mental health, some of the practical things you can do, there's journaling, there's volunteering, there's getting engaged with your community. You don't necessarily have to do that with other places. You can do that even within your organization. So the question is, what HR policies and systems can be created to make people feel more involved, not just with the work, but even with the communities that they are serving? So sometimes we also think that the best ways to motivate people is just by promotion. But no, there are other rewards and recognition packages and systems that you can put in place because in the end, people just want to feel seen and feel heard. It's not about whether or not they are Gen Z. It's not about whether or not they are millennials. Everybody, baby boomers, everybody really just wants to be seen and heard. And so when it comes to the conversation about mental health in the workplace, it's what systems are we putting in place to make sure that people feel seen and they feel heard? And one more thing I think I would like to add to this is a lot of times we also create unnecessary divides within the workplace, which is why at the top of this conversation, I mentioned something about the negative connotations when we talk about Gen Z. It really is, the truth is, it's not us versus them. And as people in management, in leadership, in HR, whomever you might be, as long as you have people that you are subordinates that you're collaborating with, it's not, it shouldn't be, there shouldn't be a mentality of it's us versus them, or they are like this and we're like this. It really just doesn't help the organization really. So what we should be doing is creating team bonding activities as well, because it also would contribute to everybody's mental health. Team bonding activities that force me again to empathize with somebody else. That if you have to create like small groups and put the millennials and the Gen Zs in one group, and then just mix it all up like that, and in the end you force all of them to work together, and in the course of working together on this team bonding activity, I get to realize that this is what your strength is, or I get to understand this colleague of mine a little better. And in the end, it just impacts your overall well-being. And just as last point on this, as was mentioned about we're moving away from the number of hours that we work to a deliverable based system. It also means that there will be flexibility with work, really, because that then means I can more or less do things at my own pace, but just ensure that I remain productive. Because a lot of times people have are strung out or emotionally stressed because you're expecting them to spend 8-10 hours at work in front of their computers all the time. All that blue light is hitting you, and then in the end it's not making you effective. So there's a lot I've said, but in the end, I think I've also built on what every other person has said so far.
All right. Thank you very much, Angela. Okay, while you were speaking, I saw Kulani's hand raised. Kulani,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to say, when it comes to mental health in the workplace, I think employers should be as concerned about the physical well-being of their employees as they are about the mental well-being of their employees. So I'll use an example. The same way a construction boss is very, very, concerned about somebody falling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That kind of physical safety that people are concerned about in the workplace, that kind of safety needs to be considered in the workplace as well. Because at the end of the day, if I show up in the workplace mentally unwell, mentally stressed out, burnt out, et cetera, I am not going to be able to deliver the way that I need to be able to deliver. And it's just going to take away from the quality of work that I'm able to put together. Do people weaponize mental health in the workplace? Of course they do. But as Angela said, the number of people that weaponize it is minimal compared to the actual reality of people that are actually struggling with things like stress, depression, anxiety, personality disorders, burnout. That feeling that everybody, when you ask people who've been in the workplace a long time, how are you? And every time they tell you, my tired is tired. For me, that's always an alarm bell to say, if this person's tired is tired, something is not right. So, and I say this because we do a lot of work around mental health in the workplace and helping employers create mentally safe spaces for their employees. Because if they don't feel safe from a mental aspect, you're only getting half of the person. So, it's very, very important to make sure that the workplace is mentally sound and is designed in a way that contributes to people's mental well-being, and realizing that work can actually be a great contributor to people developing mental illness or experiencing severe, expression of existing conditions as well. So that's just my little 2 cents worth around that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kulani. Mr. Flubel, I think I saw your hands up.
Yes, ma'am. I just
wanted to say something. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm just echoing what both Kolani and Angela mentioned earlier on, to say, back in the days when you mentioned you are stressed or you are not feeling well, some kind of mentally related discomfort, you were perceived as a weak person. In fact, it could go as far as you being tied up and chained so that you don't get naked and go to the marketplace. So they will consider you mad, if not weak. So it's a kind of mentality that our generation, the older generation, again, to the point of Angela, to say it's not the we against them, it's us. How do we reach a certain goal? And to that, it's all about getting together, participating together in the same objective, and not seeing somebody as maybe too young to participate or too old to participate, but have an equal ground without prejudice to say, this one is a woman, this one is too young, this one, how can you advise about maternity? You never had a baby, stuff like that. That's what happens at workplace. So that's just what I wanted to reinforce, because it might have just gone unnoticed. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Flubet. So, okay, time, yeah, this 3:20, I didn't expect that we'll stay this long. And also considering the fact that, yeah, I haven't, let me read through the chats if I can see any questions. Okay, yeah, no questions here. Okay, so I think since everybody has spoken, I'll just, I think, yeah, one more question. Yeah, friends. I just give the floor to Iretomiwa. Yes, I just want her to just talk about, yeah, you're the one that made mention of stereotypes. Yes, I've learned so much about it, about Gen Z from everybody's perspective today. So is there something you can just, let's say, like a, maybe it's not a solidified statement, but something you can say about the Gen Z? Just something you can add to the discussion. Since there
Okay.
are no questions and questions in the chat box.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take bits and pieces from everyone, because this has been really, I've just been listening and taking notes. Generally, if you notice, I'm furiously writing. Whether you are managing teams, CEO, employers, it's important to start asking yourself some questions, because, like, I believe it was Kulani that mentioned it,
Yeah.
about loyalty. There's a reason. Like I said, the things are the older generation grumbled about. They're the things that this generation is going to ask questions about. Because if you think about it, who came up with the construct that from 9 to 5 you have to work, and then you have to be dead tired the next day, then wake up, and in all of that you have to be a good parent, you have to be a good son, good family member. At the same time, you have to, one way or the other, think of whether you want faith, whether you want religion, whether you want to be a political citizen. All of that within the time frame of 24 hours, day in, day out. Who came up with that construct, and how has nobody asked questions about it? Because think about it, it takes up so much of our lives, and yet some people will ask, is it work or slavery? That is why, as a country, whether you're a president or whether you are a CEO, there's a driving vision of your company. There's a message you have. There's an objective you want to. That's why you see companies having 30-day workshops, trying to get everybody to understand the vision, the mission. When you communicate this, it's important that, like I said, communication is two-way. You need to communicate and listen. So irrespective of whether it's a Gen Z that's on the other side, whether it's Gen X or it's a 90-year-old person at the other side, it's important that what you're promising, you are delivering on. Because while the older generation will be okay with, I just need to ensure that I finish this and I get my gold wristwatch at the end of 50 years or 20 years. No, our generation, the older generation, was asking questions about, is this what I should be doing? Do I retire when I'm 40? Do I retire when I'm 45, when I'm 50, so I can do something else? The new generation is saying, this is what you promised I'm going to get when I come to your job. It keyed in with what I wanted in my life, my purpose. But you see, one day after I realized that it doesn't matter, and unlike the older generation that will wait and say, no, I'm asking the question. You can have a very vociferous young person that says, okay, excuse me, CEO, I don't understand this, I don't understand this, I don't understand this. Or you can have one that says, you know what, why am I asking questions? I can just go somewhere else and check it out. I'm young and my life just started. I'm just going to go somewhere else. But you see, like I said, it's a mentality and it's a function of who we are right now, or the time that we're in right now. The older generation also, we shouldn't be taking that. If it doesn't match with what you want, because at the end of the day, it takes so much of your time. You need to feel fulfilled. It's not slavery. It's work. It's a part of your life. If it doesn't match, like they will say in my country, take the no grief, hashtag no grief, follow the Gen Z mentality and do what works for you, because you're going to answer to yourself when you're 50s and your 60s, your grandchildren are walking around and everything. Are you feeling fulfilled? There's also, somebody else mentioned about, understanding how, trying to bridge the gap. Like I mentioned from the beginning, You need to communicate what you do as a company and communicate it well and ensure that you're delivering on that promise. If you're not delivering and you're surrounded by 90-year-olds who wouldn't give you the truth, then that's a problem. Because there is no better time to be than now, where you get feedback real time. You have somebody tweeting that I went to X and X, something happened and it was a disappointment. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that didn't happen. You have to send a letter and go around and then you put a blast in the newspaper. But you're getting feedback real time. Countries and presidents on policies that are happening, you're getting feedback right now. How is that not a good thing? How is that not something to emulate and, want to understand? That's why as employers, we need to be deliberate about it. And it's one of the things for us in our company, we say people before profit. Because if you are thinking about it and you know some of the problems that are going to come up later, whether your Gen Z is going to fight about it or whether the millennials are just going to grumble about it, why not sit down and create policies, put things in place that will make work better? It's not about Gen Z or anything else, like Angela and Fulbert said. It's about ensuring that people enjoy themselves at what they do. It's too much time and too much stress to be hating on what you're doing. Too much. And it's not even a function of just HR. It's a function of everybody, whether you're in the management suit. Ask these questions yourselves, because we can't be in a position where life is this hard. So like I said, there's no better time than now. And think about it. The Gen Zs are putting us on our toes. They're making us ask questions. They're disrupting things. We shouldn't leave it to them only. We are Gen Z too in one way. Let's ask those questions. Let's disrupt those things. So that at the end of the day, when you're done with your work, you too, there's a satisfied smirk you have at the end of the day. Look at it. Sometimes it can beat money. It can beat all the houses you have. So that's just really my roundabout and things. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, thank you, Red Tomiwa. So we are actually bringing this session to a close, but then I would like to hear from one more person, and after that we'll have, because the time is fast spent. I'm trying to see if it's possible we can wrap this up in the next 4 minutes, but okay. So that means I'm giving Mr. Felix just 2 minutes. That's right before the closing remark. I'm giving Mr. Felix just 2 minutes to just tell me, as an employer, using Jali Finance as case study. So how do you bridge the gap between Gen Z and other generations in your establishments? Yeah. So, sir, that's for 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. I'll say that I've just learned a lot, and for someone like me who works on every day with Gen Z people, and I would say that I'm not teaching anyone. I'm actually getting educated myself. There's a lot of things I've been learning throughout the career, where we've been breaking the principles that has worked through generation. Things like when we started the organization, we needed to we were thinking that to maximize the capacity of people, we need to see if people, well, as small, we started very small, as small organization by that time. We were sometimes, before you know it, you exploit people. You let people work overtime without even paying them, or sometimes not recognized, because you need to, you are in hurry of coming from a small enterprise to somehow an enterprise that is significant. Let me not call it large. So by that time, we're using things like tracking timesheet, letting people sign in with their fingerprint when they enter and when they go out. Doing a lot of things that make sure that our people are our people and our time is our time. But as the time was going on, we realized that these people are trying to be independent. You look at someone of 20 years old, you see he has more followers than you. on Twitter. That's an example. He has more followers, even more than the company. Now you wonder how on earth in the world this person can manage to do this, and you see that it's really enjoyable. So that has always been, that along with others has always been like a sign that these people need to feel independent, need to feel like they work for themselves, need to feel like the accomplishment that they have a part of what the company is achieving. So telling someone come at 8, go at 5 p.m. And take a, say, okay, probably I'm not telling anyone not to have some HR process to follow, but there are things we can learn from this younger generation, things that actually end up being so productive. For example, we no longer track the time of the people, the hours that they've tracking time. I mean, what task were you doing, and what have you doing? Like for every minute spent in the office. Sometimes putting some complicated software in the computer to track them, and also ask them to add some timesheet. This kind of thing. You realize that they are sometimes even spending more time doing that thing, sometimes more than doing the actual job. Of course, I'm not telling people to be so naive. For example, ourselves, we kept tracking the tasks, so that at least you can see in the system and see what are the 5 next things people are up to, or what they are doing right now. But not necessarily say how long did you spend on this task. Of course, people working in the office, not all work from the office. People working in the office, they can, by the time of COVID, we even remove those things of touching a machine. At least there's some QR code. And I'm not telling people to be naive, but to balance, and by learning from their younger generation team on what works best for them, what make them appropriate the work. And not only those people in the internal in-house, as the person who works with people like a motorcycle driver, for example, you can see how fulfilled they are, as they're actually working for themselves. You use this motorcycle, you use this car, you will own it one day. This is far better than like you are my employee. You turn the vehicle at this time, you turn it off at this time, but say, okay, work as hard as you can, pay as fast you could. You're going to own this asset one day. So this gig economy, this come along with people who do delivery, people, there are people who does Uber drivers, Uber or similar application, people working for themselves, like running things like Airbnb. So those are the things that you see that people need independence, and we all need to know how to balance this and make people feel the independence while you accomplish your goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Felix. Thank you for that. Okay, so basically this brings us to the end of the panel discussion, because okay, let me check through the chat again. Okay, there are no questions yet. So yeah, this brings us to the end of this discussion series, and to be very honest, it was very, very insightful hearing from everybody's perspective, and I think as regards the Gen Z, there's so much to learn from them, and all we just need to do is just to create a balance. And yes, let them come in. So I'm going to, for the closing remarks, I'm going to call on Yemisi to just give us just 2 minutes so that we can wrap this up as soon as possible. Over to you, Yemisi.
All right, thank you very much to everyone. It's been very interesting, different perspectives, yet we're saying the same thing. And I think my take out of
this is that it is not just about a group of people changing, the world is changing, and we just have to change with it. And there's this popular saying that says, this generation's illiterates would not be people that can't read or write, but those that, can't learn. You can't learn as it's going. So before it was the older generation that are getting away with things. Right now, it's these guys getting away with things. Like, I see them get away with things that I could never have imagined. They say things that, and I'm like, wait, even my younger sister, like, did you just say that to my mother? Like, even in the family, in the society, in the church, it's just mind-blowing. At work, it's even a little bit better. Like, people take their job seriously in Africa because you don't know how easy you're going to get another one. But meet these people outside work and you'd be like, wow. At church, there are some of them I'm running after, and I'm like literally running after them. And I knew nobody ran after me like that. So it is just interesting. And like one of our panelists said, that they are very lucky. And I don't think they're lucky. I think they're just taking their life and they're doing the best they can do with it. So on behalf of Good Words Partners Limited, I want to say a very big thank you to every one of our panelists, Mr. Felix, Ms. Iretomiwa, Mrs. Angela, Mr. Flubert, Mrs. Kolani. I'm so grateful. We're so grateful that you're here. I enjoy every aspect of it, like the energy, the wisdom, the experiences that you all brought into this is well appreciated. Thank you very much. This is going to be a monthly session. Next month is going to be another topic. We're talking about AI next month and artificial intelligence. And so what should we do with that? Some people frown at it, some people embrace it. So that is what we're going to be talking about next month. And thank you very much. It is the first edition, and if it is like this, I can just imagine what every other edition is going to look like. So thank you very much for making it a huge success. God bless you. Thank you very much. We really appreciate this. This is live on YouTube, so in case you want to go back to see yourself and hear yourself dish out those knowledge, just you find yourself on YouTube. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you. Thank you. And thank you to everyone that joined in, our participants, even though you didn't ask any questions. Well, I also did not even have to ask any questions.
Yeah,
our panelists were on point. And so, but next month, please ask questions. It makes it more interactive. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a lovely weekend. You can drop off the call now.
Angela,
Thank you.